Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and in this video we're going to go into some of the basics of like recording and playing back DJ slash EDM lighting. Now, if you missed our last video, we basically built this lighting rig from scratch here in 3D to give you a demonstration of just some basic ideas of how to lay out rigs for these types of shows, because when it comes down to it, even if it's a fairly small rig that we're working with, for some of you this is going to look like a huge rig, for others of you it looks small, but regardless it's in the middle. And the biggest part is that it is very practical. The tools we use, the how we structure things, the way we lay things out, the techniques we use to design this are literally the same, whether small or big, it doesn't change. So that's how it's applicable. Okay, so we've made a few changes and we're going to talk about kind of just programming, layout, what you need, bare basics kind of stuff on this. If you do want more, we cover this inside of things like Learn Stage Lighting Labs, which is our full set of courses on lighting. We've got one in there on Fantastical, which is all about running lights live to music. It covers a lot of this stuff, and we'll probably do some more DJ EDM stuff in there in the future, honestly, because it's fun and people need to do it. So what are we working with here? Since we last watched this, I did make a couple tweaks to my rig just for the sake of programming. First and foremost, I only have a 4 universe license of capture. If you want to help the channel, buy gear through Learn Stage Lighting Gear and I can upgrade my license. Or if you need to 3D visualize, buy capture from us and then it'll help us buy a bigger license. But regardless, I only have 4 universes, so I took down the quantity of pixel strips to a lot less, and I got them all hooked up running some video. So that's the first thing. When it comes to DJ EDM type stuff, I would say 99% of the time, just treat any pixel source, any pixelated fixture like the Gamma Pixel Strip IP, and a review is here on those, treat any of those just as video. Okay, so I literally went in and I've got Resolume up somewhere. Okay, I've got Resolume up. It's playing these various video clips, right? We've got, this is just literally the demo content that comes up, right? And it's streaming it out NDI, or in the case of a real video wall, it would be going to the video wall. And then I'm streaming it into Onyx's Pixel Mapper, also as NDI. Save it as a queue. Could probably leave that queue for most of the show and just follow the visuals, right? Nice and simple. That's the cool thing about pixelated fixtures, is you start to go, oh man, it's all these fixtures, all these channels, all this control, but if you treat it as video, it's really just one fixture, right? And I could override that at any time. I could just go over here and I'm in Onyx. I'm not pulling that up because the point of this tutorial is to be console agnostic, to not be, choosing one console or another. But I could go ahead, pull up any clip, right, and have something completely different on it at any point in the game, right? Something, totally different from what we were doing there, but that's not the case. So let me clear that up. Whoop. Perfecto. Okay, so when it comes to the lighting, fixtures, programming, kind of laying out and playing back, we're kind of lumping that all into one here. The first thing to think about is what presets, what building blocks do you put together to make a great show? Okay, obviously there's going to be all sorts of effects and chases and cool things like that, and that stuff's usually pretty easy for people to imagine. But what people get stuck on a lot, I find, is just like the basic building blocks, right? So essentially in this rig, we have 2 kinds of fixtures. We have a beam fixture, the Elation darts, and we have our review here. We have the Volux Sisma, and we have our review here if we have enough YouTube cards, or else it'll be below. And those are our 2 types of fixtures, right? So say I go ahead and I just bring them to full. We blind ourselves. And, when it comes to these fixtures, we're just going to do basic colors, right? Why are we not? Oh, it's just a little more saturated in the one fixture than the other. Let's just take them way down because something's a little off in this visualizer. Okay, so we bring them way down and we go ahead and pop them into a position real quick. There we go. It's because half of them were blinding us. Try to brighten them up a little. Yeah, I can even go to full. Yeah, that's better. I think it was just that they were shining in our eyes. So color-wise, I'm really basic with colors in any scenario. So red, green, blue, yellow, magenta, cyan, amber, violet, and white. Boom. You really don't need anything else other than that. Make all those perfectly. But the beautiful thing about most modern consoles is you can update that on the fly anytime, right? So you're going to program those colors for all your fixtures, right? Then you're going to go and program positions, right? So, there could be a million different moving light positions, and I did a video previous on this before. What moving light position should I program? Things like this, like crossing them, like having them point at the artist, having them go up in the air, at the set, if there's any set design, which there isn't really here, at the audience, blinding the snot out of people, is the kind of stuff you're going to want to build. All these things are kind of the building blocks, right? To build, different effects, chases, things like that on top of. In terms of other looks, that's where we want to work with the unique abilities of our fixture as we're programming across all of them. In the case of the Sisma Z4s from Volux, what we're going to do there is, we basically can move them. We can pan and tilt them. We can change their color. Okay, we've done those two. And then they're a pretty simple wash unit. So what they can do is they can go very narrow and they can zoom very wide, right? And they've got the ability to vary that throughout the show. So sometimes you'll be like this, have the little pencils going through the air of everything. Sometimes you'll be a lot like this, and I need to reprogram all my colors, but that's okay. Something like a beam fixture or a spot fixture, the elation darts being a beam fixture, is going to have a lot more to it, right? So we've got focus, we've got a frost to kind of soften it out. We have a nice prism, which doesn't look great here in the visualizer. It looks better in real life, and that prism is able to rotate. And I think there's a second prism. Yep. There's a linear prism, which really isn't showing up here, which also rotates. They look epic in person. Check out our review video. So you can bring in those prisms. Of course, you've got different gobo patterns that you're able to use to vary, etc. And that's kind of the tools you've got in a fixture like that. So then the process comes, okay, how do you put this all together to make a really great show? Well, the next thing I think about is grouping, right? Because obviously here, I just took my fixtures and I would go, hey, put them all in this position, put them all in this position, put them all in this position, right? Put them in this effect, put them in that effect. If you spend all day using every fixture in your rig, having them all on, having them all doing the same thing, that gets old really fast, right? So no matter how big or small your rig is, it's really key for one, at times, to just, go and shut some of the stuff off, right? So, here, I've got them up in my programmer. So here, maybe I grab the Sismas for a minute, and they get shut off, and we do portions with just the darts, and vice versa. But besides that, we have a lot of other groupings that I've built into this. So I'm going to kick on highlights. So obviously I've got my fixture types, okay, Sismas and darts, right? But then I could do just the left side. I could do just the right side. I could do just the stuff behind the stage. I could do just the stuff in the audience, right? And so for any of these things, this is now another layer that you can build, that you can lay out in your show, right? Sometimes you can have the audience on, off, low, high, etc. And in terms of programming it, in terms of how to lay it out, this is really going to depend on kind of the type of situation you're in, right? Because with DJ EDM type lighting, there's typically one of two situations. One is a punt page where you don't necessarily know the artist's music, or you didn't have time to program. You just have basic stuff, colors, positions, gobos, movements, chases, right? You have these basic building blocks, you put them all together, and you do it all on the fly to music that you either know or don't know, right? The other type of programming is, it can take a lot longer, be a lot more tedious, but it's typically easier during a show, which is programming out the show cue by cue, right? Having cue lists for different songs. A lot of times in this world, there's time code coming from the artist. And as they fire the time code, or you play through the songs, you're just going down the cues, down, 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 down. The benefit to that type of setup is you can program things that are a lot more complex, right? And play them back a lot more reliably, because in the time of playback, you're not really making decisions. You're just following the artist, right? You made all your decisions, you program, you made this epic show. Now it's time to play it back. Okay. The con to that, of course, is, like I always say, is you should always, in any type of situation that you're running lighting, be ready and have the ability to go off the plan and punt and program live and on the fly and just be running stuff. Okay. Now, how do you do that, right? There can be a lot of ways to do that. And I said I wasn't going to pull into Onyx, but I am. But there can be a lot of ways to do that, right? So one way you could do that is, and some people punt this way, is literally not have any cues, right? Like just be selecting groups of lights. In Onyx, under the rate tab, we have our global fade time and our live time, which is the one for the programmers. The live time, the fade time is for cues, as well as the global effects speed. These three you can change around and modulate as you go, and be able to do a lot of really interesting stuff, or really complex stuff, because sometimes it means you're going to bring in color changes, right? And let's just look at half the rig. Why not? Right? And we'll take our live time to, minimum like this, right? And when we change colors, actually, I got to move this over here. When we change colors, it happens. Oops, highlights on. Right? We turn on our fixtures. And then when we change colors, it's instant, right? It's to the beat. It happens right away. But if we adjust that rate, and different consoles have different ways of doing this, now we get a nice fade, right? Especially in the world of EDM, a lot of times in slower segments, you might do a 10-second fade like this, right? On a position where, here I've dialed it to 10 seconds. Now we'll go ahead to a position. Right, and it moves nice and slow. It's getting a little jittery here. I think it's something with one of the profiles. Right, and over, that was like 10 seconds, the fixtures move slowly. It can be 20 seconds, it can be 30 seconds to create this constant morphing and movement. All that to say, it's really hard in a short form, in this type of format, to go into tons and tons of detail as to how to program, how to lay out a console for something like this, but we have other videos that go over it. Like we have an older one called How to Run Lights Live to Music. We'll put that below. It's one of our most watched videos. And we have a video, a whole series, a whole course rather, called Puntastical inside of Learn Stage Lighting Labs. But hopefully, my hope for this video is that you looked at this relatively simple rig in a pretty big space and said, you know what? I could do that. I could make something that looks as epic as that. Because at the end of the day, it's not about having all these fancy tools, about having all these expensive lights. It's really about using the lights you have really well. And I hope that's what I've been able to show you, some tidbits and some things to think about, and way to lay things out for these type of lighting, that DJ and EDM lighting, that cover that. Awesome. If we did, and if you're in the market for lighting, video walls, audio, cases, stands, whatever you need, Learn Stage Lighting Gear is the place to get it. We're always adding more and more stuff as well to that. And so if you haven't checked it out before and you're in the US, check it out. If you need any cases, we just recently added Gator for their framework stands and their road cases. And I gotta say, I'm really surprised at how good their pricing is. It's really good stuff. We can ship any of it free from the site. A lot of it's not listed yet though, so if you need any of that, just email us, Garrett@LearnStageLighting.com, and we will see you guys in the next video as long as you're subscribed. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys there. Bye.